edition of our Bringing Water to Life webinar. This one's entitled Promoting Efficient Irrigation Strategies at Work. My name is John Farner. I am the Government and Public Affairs Director with the Irrigation Association. I want to be welcome to this webinar. We're going to start out by first talking a little bit about housekeeping before the webinar begins. First of all, this webinar is being recorded. It'll be available next week by visiting the website listed on your screen, irrigation.org/webinar series. If you have a question during the webinar, please use our GoToWebinar toolbar that is on your screen right now. With the amount of people, we had over 400 people sign up for this webinar, so we can't really accommodate a live question and answer period. But if you go ahead and just type into the toolbar your question, I will go ahead and capture those questions during our presenter's remarks, and we'll go ahead and have a moderated Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And finally, as advertised, this webinar does qualify you to earn 1 CEU. Just keep a record of your attendance. We have a list of the folks who are on this webinar right now that we will share with our certification staff. Just make sure you keep a record of the date and time that you attended, just in case we require any records, and that should be fine. So first, I wanted to talk, before we get into our speakers, and we have a great presentation lined up for us today, but I want to talk a little bit about the Irrigation Association. This webinar is about promoting efficient irrigation, so I would be remiss to first talk about the IEA and what we're doing on that end as well. For those who are not familiar with the IEA, on the screen you can see who we are. We're the leading membership organization for water management companies and professionals in agriculture, landscape, and golf. So we're very diverse, which because we're diverse, we really rely on our strategic plan to keep us moving in the right direction. And you see it on your screen in front of you. Our mission is to promote efficient irrigation. That's what drives us every day, staff, leadership, volunteers, etc. What can we do to further advance that mission, to promote efficient irrigation? And our vision is to be the recognized authority on irrigation. Well, how do we accomplish these goals? How do we promote efficient irrigation in the marketplace, through policy, etc.? And how do we become the recognized authority for those folks to come to the IEA for information? Well, we have core strategic initiatives. First one is advocacy. That's in government affairs, public affairs, and standards and codes. And then one is professional development, education, training, and certification. And throughout the webinar today, we're going to kind of combine all of these things into one, because we can't do one without another. We can't have solid public affairs, which is really where Smart Irrigation Month and the promotion of efficient irrigation falls under. You can't have that with a solid educational base. You can't have that with a solid training base. And you can't have that with certifying those individuals to do the work on the field, either in an agricultural, turf, landscape, golf setting. And finally, we have core support initiatives. One is membership. The IEA cannot do any of this without having a core membership support, as well as the irrigation show. That's the one avenue, the one opportunity we have to all come together and showcase the latest and greatest in technologies, while at the same time coming together and elevating the education level throughout the workforce in irrigation. So let's talk about Smart Irrigation Month. This is an Irrigation Association created initiative. This is the last day of Smart Irrigation Month, so we thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of look back at July, celebrate Smart Irrigation Month, do a little bit of review and exactly what it means to be promoting smart irrigation throughout the month of July, and taking those lessons, taking those core things that we all did, and then promoting them throughout the 12 months each year. So first, what does it mean to be smart, and how do we spread the message? So what does it mean to be smart? If you think back to our strategic plan of the Irrigation Association, we had education. And we have various educational materials of which our knowledge base is based off of. They go anywhere from just general irrigation to all facets of agriculture to overall principles, and then best management practices in landscape. And everything we do is based off our educational materials. Then we have certifications. that really promote and elevate the level of work being done in the field, whether it's on the agricultural side or the turf, landscape, and golf side. We really promote these as the smart way of the most efficient way of irrigating. And how do we spread this message? We have a core base that we work off of, core education base, core certification base that we work off of. How do we spread this message? Well, first, both the IA proclaimed July as Smart Irrigation Month, but then we have a core initiative within Smart Irrigation Month to have state and localities proclaim the month as Smart Irrigation Month as well, proclaim July as Smart Irrigation Month as well. The cities, localities, states that we have listed on the screen right now are all the ones that have proclaimed July 2014 as Smart Irrigation Month. Now, what do we do with this information? You can see on your screen right there, this is from 2012, Governor Hickenlooper declared July as Smart Irrigation. So what the Irrigation Association wants to do is put this in the hands of everybody. So you as practitioners, whether you're a water provider that works with practitioners, or you are a practitioner that works with water providers and your customers, you can take this and just spread the word of efficient irrigation. Look what it means to be efficient. I'm efficient because I have this knowledge base, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really creating opportunities in the promotion of efficient irrigation throughout the year to elevate those technologies, those services in the marketplace. We have resources on our website, smartirrigationmonth.org. We're going to be talking a little bit about our social media campaign that we did this year, our work with water providers, work in the field, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just as a snapshot right here, this is just a base of things that we are working on throughout the month of July and the year to promote Smart Irrigation Month, to promote efficient irrigation in the marketplace. Now I'm going to stop right there and first introduce our speaker, Michael Pippin. Michael works for Irrigation Mart in Ruston, Louisiana, and I've spent a lot of time with Michael, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. He was raised on a cotton, corn, and soybean farm in northeast Louisiana. It's a solid ag background, and he started working in Irrigation Mart in the spring of 2001, and really worked his way from an entry-level job up to the sales director from the years of 2001, promoted to sales director in the fall of 2012. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's in engineering and technology management that he also received in 2012. He's also chair of the Irrigation Association Certification Board and has his CID, Certified Irrigation Designer certification, as well as a Certified Ag Irrigation Specialist certification. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Michael Pippin. So Michael, I'm going to turn things over to you right now.
Okay, I think I got this going right. Everybody can see that?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, well, like John said, I'm Michael Pippin. I work for the Irrigation Mart. We're located in Ruston, Louisiana. A little bit about us, so you'll know our background and kind of where my perspective is coming from. We are a dealer or distributor. We kind of use those terms as the same, meaning we have primarily a agriculture focus, working a lot with the horticultural crops, fruit, vegetable, nut crops, some row crops, corn and soybeans and cotton, but primarily horticultural crops. We also have more of a localized turf landscape business that would be more centered, within a 60-mile radius of our home base here, where our agriculture base would cover most of the Southeast and the Caribbean and even some Central and South America as well. We have about 30 employees. All of our sales staff are engineers or soon-to-be engineers, although we did just hire our first horticultural specialist from Auburn. He just started a couple of weeks ago, so we're excited about adding that dynamic to our sales staff. Our customer base is really threefold. We're kind of a unique company. We have some walk-in customers. We have a brick-and-mortar place in Ruston, Louisiana, with a sales room, and our contractors and agriculture customers walk right in and order over the sales counter. It's a very traditional walk-in base. the majority of our sales come over the phone from people that we've met, have relationships with. Our sales staff travels outside the office, and most of our orders are people that call in, or we call them and take orders and enter them here in our database, and we ship them out of our Ruston, Louisiana warehouse or direct from the manufacturers. We also have spent a great deal of time and effort really over the last 5 or 6 years trying to develop and maintain a website and a web presence, I guess is a better way of putting that, to where now we have a pretty substantial part of our business coming from web sales. So we have an online store that we rolled out last year, and in the past we've also used avenues such as eBay, Amazon, and some other sales sites. So kind of move forward with what we're talking about today, promoting efficient irrigation. In my mind, I like to start, why are we promoting efficient irrigation? What's the point? And for us at Irrigation Mart specifically, we kind of get the big picture. What I mean by that is that we understand that water is finite. We understand that it is a natural resource of a lot of value. We understand that we need to conserve it. We understand that we need to make those conservation practices not just financially pleasing, but also sustainable. So, us here at Irrigation Mart, we're in the irrigation business. We're in the water business, if you will. We get that. We understand it. We understand the need for having something like Smart Irrigation Month and promoting those efficient practices. But just for us in the industry is really not enough. And so we have to expose our customer base to that problem, because maybe they are unaware of it, or maybe they just have never put a lot of thought into it, or for whatever reason. And so, a month like July gives us an opportunity to bring that to the forefront. If we give somebody and make them aware of a problem, I think it's our position to try to give them some solutions. At this point, and I think in a lot of big issues, we don't have all the solutions. Maybe we don't have the best solution, but we do have some solutions, and that's kind of where we step in here with Smart Irrigation Month. As a distributor or a dealer, however you want to think of it, we have a lot of contact bases. We have contractors that walk in. We have growers. We are in touch with a lot of designers, on larger agriculture practices. We have a lot of contact within our industry, and from the end user, several different contact points. That gives us a little bit unique perspective here at Irrigation Mart. And then finally, I think that it would be difficult to move forward this big picture idea without including the financial portion of this equation. There are going to be some people that will take a hold to the idea of conserving irrigation, understand that is a thing that we need to do, and they'll grab onto it there. But then there's others that realistically, and I probably fall in this category, is there needs to be some sort of financial component to that, something that's sustainable that we can grab onto. So some of the resources that are available out there, Irrigation Association has a lot of things out on Smart Irrigation Month. They have the logo that you see in the bottom part of the presentation. They have resources that are developed from other webinars. The Irrigation Association has a lot of different things, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I think it boils down to a lot of us that are educated about the need for promoting efficient irrigation is your staff and how you educate the people that you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And then you've got some things that are a little bit non-traditional, especially for some of us ag guys that aren't, at least I feel like some of the ag people aren't on day-to-day on the internet and maybe not quite as involved online, but some of the social media sites, that's a big thing that we did this year. And then also working with the governor's office is some of the more local ways to get those ideas across. So free press would be the first thing. This takes a lot of effort, but it doesn't take a lot of cost, and so that's a good thing. There's free templates provided by the Irrigation Mart, get to broadcast out local radio stations or however you want to use those. I think one of the biggest things that the IA has provided for us, and really, like John hit on earlier, that's their purpose is developing these things for their membership, is the Smart Irrigation Month, getting that proclaimed in your state or your city or however that is. I set in on a webinar, it may have even been last year, on how to do this. They literally gave you a step-by-step way to what you need to do to get that proclaimed in your state or in your local area. And we were able to do that. A big portion of that who really spearheaded that project was our Louisiana Irrigation Association. So we kind of worked in conjunction with the membership of our Louisiana Irrigation Association, and they were really ones that pushed that forward and made sure that got done. And so it's really a fairly simple process. You just need to know what to do. And so the IA provided that with us, and we were able to get that done this year. Press releases and things like that, again, templates were provided by Irrigation Association. We kind of just plug in the pertinent information and send it on, so it's really good. Smart Irrigation Month logo. It gives you a jumping off point. You know, a lot of people see your emails. How many people do you email every day? I mean, I don't know that you want to put it on everything that you have, but that Smart Irrigation Month logo is something that is recognized by people in our industry, and so I think that's a really, I guess, a really easy way. Very little time takes to put that on the bottom of your email signature, and it gets a lot of exposure. We had our advertising director made us put that on our site, on our emails, and stayed on us until we got that done. And so, anyway, that's a real easy way, free way to get your point across. Some of the social media stuff, and I'll have to admit I'm not a big social media person, but we do have a Facebook page and a Twitter page, and also a LinkedIn page that we can post things on. To me, that can seem kind of daunting. You know, you want to put something on Facebook about Smart Irrigation Month, or put something on Twitter account or LinkedIn or whatever you're going to use there. But there's software that's available that I was unaware of till recently, to where you can put out your information whatever day that you wanted that message to come across. You can do that months in advance. You can link it to where it puts all this information on any social media platform that you want. Very low barrier entry. A lot of that information, again, provided by Irrigation Association. These aren't things that we really had to sit down and develop. In theory, we could have, but again, leaning on the IA's resource and their mission to help promote this, we leaned on them to give us the information that post on there. Again, a lot of back work there, but it wasn't near as daunting as that may look originally, of saying, having to post this stuff on these active accounts every day. There's software, things that can make that a lot easier. We also use the social media to promote some of the in-store and online giveaways or discounts that we did, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Point of sale promotion. Again, we deal with a lot of people that just walk in off of our into our sales room here. Some of the contractors, some of the even our ag guys. A lot of the guys maybe not on the website, not on the internet during the day or at night, may just not be their thing, but still a lot of our customer base just comes and walks in our door. So we did a good amount of work with putting signage up in our showroom here. Again, seems kind of simple, make a couple of posters and stick them up there, but we had put some up and would ask people, have you noticed it? Do you see our discounts and all that kind of thing? And they really hadn't. So we really took some effort. We had to reposition some things and make bigger, make more bright, make it to where those things were noticed. And so we put a good bit of effort in trying to get those signage posted out to where it would be noticed. And then we also made sure we knew about our sales, which kind of brings in the last component there that we did to promote efficient irrigation, is trying to bring in the financial component to it. And what I alluded to earlier, there's going to be some people that recognize the issue. They recognize that water is a limited resource. They recognize that we should be efficient and good stewards of that natural resource, and they would make that investment, whether it be in education or buying new components or whatever that would take. They would make, an end user would see that issue, and they would take that step to irrigate efficiently as possible. Then there'd probably be the majority of people, and I think that I would probably fall into that category that says, yeah, that's great, but I've got bills to pay, I've got employees to pay, I've got whatever, I've unless I'm going to see a recognizable and sustainable financial impact in a positive way, that's going to be a hard step for a lot of people to take. And I think that's an honest, and I think that is a good point of discussion of how we can make these things financially sustaining. And so what we did, and I'll explain our background on this in a minute, is that we offered two things mainly. If you bought a smart controller, basically one that has weather station capabilities, smart capabilities, we basically gave you a free rain sensor. That's not a big expense for us, not a big expense for the grower, but it actually, the point there was to kind of force some level of smart irrigation on people, even if they didn't really know they were doing that. They would buy a controller. We would steer them towards the smart controller, which is what we typically do anyway, and hey, you get a free rain sensor. Fairly low cost on our point, fairly low investment on their point, but at least it got the foot in the door. So anytime we sold a controller, the theory there that was we got a rain sensor. If that's all the only step that they took, at least they did something, and maybe we planted a seed. Then we also ran a 50% off sale on a economy weather station, not the super high-end weather stations that are available, but on the economy weather station, which is a pretty good seller for us, we offered a 50% off, which basically off a retail cost, and so that basically gave it a $50 value. Again, when you buy a smart controller, and we kind of stipulated that to a multi-zone controller there. Again, the thought process there was that someone is going to be buying a controller that has 12, 16, 20 stations, which is a big controller for our areas from a turf landscape side, that they're already making a pretty reasonable investment in an irrigation system. So hopefully a $50 starting point for a weather station, economy weather station, would be a pretty low barrier for them, that we felt like that was something that they would be willing to spend. And then if they wanted something more advanced, we could offer some sort of discount as needed on that. That was really our points this year of trying to get products out in the field. It sounds like a little bit of disconnect when I say that the majority of our customers are horticulture, fruit and vegetable, nut crops, but here our discounts and kind of where our push was at was turf landscape. And then the reality of it is this is where most of the focus has been, where most of the information is, kind of the lowest hanging fruit in our opinion. This is something that we could do effectively, and we felt like it was a good fit with our contractor base, even though that's not the largest percentage of our business. And really the honesty there is we had some ideas on our ag side, but timing of the year and just us not getting all of our things put together in a timely fashion prevented that. But we're definitely going to have a ag focus and a turf landscape focus for next year put together. One little asterisk that I'll put here at the very bottom of these product discounts. I think that there's a fine / maybe dangerous line between discounting products or services, for that matter, that push things up to a higher level. What I mean by that is we don't want to discount the value that these products or services are bringing to the customer. I would be very apprehensive to give a free weather station. Now, that may work extremely good, and I'm not sure, but by making it absolutely free, you may be, one, giving a connotation that this is not a very valuable thing to start with, or there's very little from a customer base. If they don't have much put into it, they don't have really a tie to it, they don't have an ownership of that product they purchased, are they really going to use it? Are they even going to hook it up if it's free? Again, with the rain sensors, fairly economical. We're kind of willing to run that risk that they're not going to wire it up. That's a very low barrier to get those things up and going. But with a weather station, you have to have it kind of programmed. You've got to take a few extra steps. You either have to find a contractor to help you do that, or you're going to have to make a few steps. So we didn't want to make it so discounted that people didn't have some value, they didn't associate some value with that and not use it. Because in reality, we're wanting everybody that purchase it. One, we want to get the volume out there, and two, we want people to use it. So like with everything, especially with marketing and trying to promote, there's going to be some successes and some failures. It's been a pretty wet and pretty cool spring and summer here in Louisiana. We haven't even had a day over 100 this year, and last year I think we'd had 14 or 20 days already, and so that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're not going to complain about being a little wet and a little cool, but some of those smart products really just haven't sold as well because there's not that forefront. There's not that at least in our local area, there's not that issue right in front of your face because it rained yesterday and it's 85 today or 87, something like that, instead of 97 like it typically is at the end of July. And so that has kind of hurt our sales across the board in the turf landscape. Not necessarily a bad thing again, but we did have some steady sales of smart products. We sold a slightly higher percentage than we do in previous months, and basically the same as we have done in previous years in this time of the year. So, I'm pleased with that. I'm not sure that some of those, I know the rain sensors and some of those we gave out, obviously we gave out one of those with everyone, so those numbers were higher. But we also got three or four of the weather stations, and for our market, that's pretty good. So I'm fairly pleased with that. What I was a little bit disappointed in was online sales. We kind of thought that our online presence, it's a different customer base for us. The online guys, we sell a lot of soil moisture monitoring stuff online. At least, comparatively speaking, we sell a lot of tensiometers for you ag guys. We sell a lot of tensiometers, lots of service kits, lots of rain sensors, lots of smart controllers. We sell a lot of that percentage-wise on our website and through Amazon and some of those. The dollar amount for those what I would consider moisture monitoring and smart controllers and that kind of thing, the percentage of sales there versus whatever else is sold on the internet is very high compared to what we do from our point of sale and over the phone. So I was expecting or hoping to have a big, nice jump there, and it really just didn't happen. I'm not sure exactly what all was there. Again, it's just right at the end of the month. We haven't analyzed all that, but that's the reality of it. The low customer reaction, again, in our area, and we'll kind of jump off on this and the challenges and conclusion. Here in Louisiana, and even in a lot of places in the Southeast, water is really just not seen as an issue. We get a lot of rainfall most years. We have a high water table. We have a lot of rivers, a lot of creeks, a lot of bayous. We have a good water source that there has been some initiatives to the Sparta Aquifer, to say, hey, we've got to, we need to be aware that the Sparta Aquifer table is dropping and all that. But in reality, our water is cheap and is readily available. That's a hard market to sell smart, efficient irrigation systems in. It really is, because the drive from a financial standpoint or an awareness standpoint is not there. Our water is very inexpensive. It's not like our neighbors in Texas, even Dallas 4 hours away, where they're mandating drip. And my brother-in-law and sister-in-law just bought a nice house in Frisco, and they have a very, very nice smart irrigation controller and weather station and drip lines and all these great things you're supposed to do in turf and landscape, but they have to, or they get a $500 fine from the city of Frisco. We don't have that in Louisiana, and so the short-term financial gain is really just not there. They're going to have to invest this, and so that's kind of where the challenge is, to where we've got to find these people that are going to buy into the big picture, because the financial component, at least for right here locally, is really not there on the short term. And even on the long term, how is that controller going to pay back financially? I'm not a big proponent of government, mandates and legislation and things like that. But at some point, we may have to push towards that to try to get the cities to recognize how much water we're using and why the treatment rates are so high in the summertime and those kind of things. So that's kind of where we're heading for, not necessarily to, hopefully not write a whole bunch of legislation, but to let our municipalities and things understand and maybe encourage, maybe give some help on the financial standpoint with rebates or whatever that may be. It may be tax property tax credits or something like that. And realistically, we're going to keep on working towards the big picture, and the exposure there is how we're going to get that done. That's kind of my conclusion. I want to thank John for giving us the opportunity to share, and I also really want to thank the Irrigation Association for all the resources and that they provided that we use, and a lot of this stuff, you could see that came from them. I also need to recognize Danielle Gray, who is our advertising and marketing manager here. A lot of the stuff that you saw, if not the vast majority of the things that you saw, promotional items she put together, she is definitely the thing, the force that makes this thing go. So I'm just the talking head behind it all. So anyway, we thank John, the IA, and Danielle for all their efforts on this, and that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. That's great, information to have, real-world examples, how you're using a lot of the concepts that we put together behind Smart Irrigation Month to promote your business, promote efficient irrigation products, et cetera, in the marketplace. I think it's great information to have. So I wanted to next introduce, of course it went to right over here. Richard Rastusha is our next speaker today. Richard is and I'm reading this off of the Valley Crest website. Richard is a self-proclaimed water management evangelist. He believes passionately in water efficiency and sees the financial and social benefits far too often to keep a secret. Director of Water Management Solutions at Valley Crest, Richard is a spokesperson at industry events and on Capitol Hill to provide direction and insight on landscape water management best practices. He currently serves on the Irrigation Association's Board of Directors, serves on our Government Affairs Committee, and also is the board liaison to the Irrigation Association Smart Irrigation Month Committee. So he has a pretty good perspective from a contractor side as well as a senior volunteer in the Irrigation Association's perspective on Smart Irrigation Month, looking at opportunities to promote efficient irrigation in the marketplace. So, Richard, let me give the controls over to you. And you should have them. There you go.
Okay, John, thank you very much for that introduction. And Michael, wow, really well said. I really enjoyed your presentation, and it really plays into really what I wanted to talk about here at the beginning. And you had one bullet there, and one thing that you said that really resonated for me, and you said water not seen as an issue right now in the part of the country you're in. And I think really what the reality is, and why July is Smart Irrigation Month is so important, is that I think for most of the country, water is not seen as an issue. I think that the public's attention, their level of education and understanding of water is so low that it really doesn't become an issue. And California is a great place that we can point to. This year, a state in which the governor asked Californians to reduce water by 20% back in January, and there's not really been that reduction yet because I'm just not sure people are aware yet how to reduce their water use and why it's important. I think that, once again, for most people, it's you turn the tap on and water comes out, and there's your solution. And I don't think they really understand that in other parts of the world. And even if you look at the Middle East, for example, they think here's a very wealthy nations there. Water should be very plentiful, and they don't realize that they don't get water all day in some real important capital cities in the Middle East. So I think that there's a huge disconnect between public knowledge and awareness of water and what the situation actually is. And my fear is that it's going to take a real catastrophe. Some of the things we saw in the 2008-2009 time frame, what happened in Atlanta where they were days away from running out of water, same thing for Las Vegas, Nevada. I don't want to see a catastrophe like that to really raise the awareness. So what we wanted to do at Valley Crest was really use July as Smart Irrigation Month to help educate. And that's why, this slide here is educate, 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 because what I did realize, this is something John Farner touched on in his introduction, is that we spend a lot of time preaching to the choir. right? We spend a lot of time educating people that are already interested in water management, and it's really that next step, getting it out to a public awareness, raise the interest level of water and water management, and that will make our jobs a lot more easy. So for Smart Irrigation Month, we really use a lot of different things that we'll cover in my presentation this morning to raise that awareness and get that word out. It's interesting. I was at WaterCon a few years ago. It's something the Irrigation Association put on, and we had some speakers there. And one of the speakers was the Director of Sustainability from Walmart. Now, he put on a great presentation. I was really interested to hear what Walmart was doing for sustainability and water management. And this is where I really learned that stories and relating it back to day-to-day activities for education was so important. So the Director of Sustainability for Walmart, he told the story of people who go to the grocery store and buy eggs. And he showed some slides, people going and looking to buy eggs just like we all do, every weekend. And we open up that carton and we look in it and we look to see if there's any cracked eggs. And if there's a cracked egg, what do? You close that carton and you kind of push it to the side and you look for a carton that has, 12 good eggs in it. Now, most of us, including myself, always thought that, at the end of the day, maybe a stock clerk or somebody came along and put those other 11 good eggs in other cartons and they were sold. But what we learned that day was that the cartons are manufactured, stamped, and time-stamped, and date-stamped. So if one's broken, they're all broken, and they have to throw them away. And we learned that Walmart, around the U.S. was throwing out about 1 million eggs a day. The result was, when you consider the water that went into the production, cleaning, manufacturing of those eggs, it was equivalent to turning your garden hose on for 23 years, leaving it running in your front yard for 23 years full blast. When I hear that story told and when I retell it to audiences, I always see, I hear a gasp. And I think it's more of bringing the water situation to the people in a way they understand that's going to be so important. So once again, I look at the education of the people and I say, it's not to blame them. It's really an opportunity for all of us in the industry to get out and do that education. So, and who we educate is really key here, right? Because we want to influence our local agencies as well as Capitol Hill, because we've heard this said in the last 12 months, lack of water is a threat to homeland security. So we know the patience of lawmakers to let the industry take care of the issues on water management is going to be very, very short because of this threat to homeland security. We also want to be sure that we're teaming up with customers, right, and partnering with our end user customers so that they can help get the word out, because once again, that'll make them more valuable to their customers and they'll see us as a resource and more valuable that way. We use social media, and we're going to talk about that and the extent and how we use social media to do this. And we want to talk about a very efficient, inexpensive way to get the word out. Social media has been excellent for doing that for us. We developed a blog a little over 3 years ago. I'm going to talk about that as well. Once again, it's a blog about water and water awareness, and it's used to raise water awareness, not to sell anything, but once again to be a resource and to promote efficient irrigation. And then, of course, we promote Smart Irrigation Month within Valley Crest, and we find that's important for a couple reasons. One, everybody at Valley Crest is an ambassador for Valley Crest and for water management, so they're touching other people, they're communicating with other people and getting the word out that way. And in addition, we find that having this commitment to water management that Valley Crest does raises the level of pride within the organization, and that gets better buy-in and better. People are standing behind the company in a more solid way as a result of this this pride of being associated with a company that does want to promote efficient irrigation. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about was getting the word out to end user customers. And this became an issue for me as a contractor because I think the Irrigation Association does such a great job with Smart Irrigation Month, I think they do a great job of getting the word out to all the members about what's happening. And if you're a manufacturer and you're in the IA and there's contractor customers, or this applies to ag too, some of your producers are involved, they're hearing what you're doing, and that's a good thing for you. And for the distributors and dealers as well, they're hearing it as well, but it's going to their customers too, which are members of the IA. But as contractors, we really don't have any customers that are members, and we really started to think, how do we take this to the next step? Because we can talk about certification, which we think is so important. We can talk about water awareness. But it's not getting to the end user customer. If they're not seeing the value, then we're really going to be shorted, and they're not really going to understand the value. So a few years ago, we really, during Smart Irrigation Month, made an outreach to some of our larger homeowner association companies. Associa was one of them. Associa is, depending on who you're talking to in the day, the first or second largest community management company in the United States with over 7,000 communities. We did a press release with them about Smart Irrigation Month, and part of that press release was to get the word out to their customers. It was reproduced in newsletters, just so the homeowners were starting to get some awareness of what was happening with Smart Irrigation Month, and more importantly, just raising their level of awareness about water. And I thought this was just great because in addition to that, this is something the Irrigation Association has really got on board with as well. And in May of this year, the Irrigation Association put together a great campaign with CAI, which is the Community Association International, and it is the group that all the community managers belong to. And they got on board with a press release, a direct mail piece, a piece in the CAI magazine, as well as their newsletter on certification and what it means as far as water efficiency and savings to homeowners. So the great news was, not only are we talking about the contractors that are part of the IA being certified and what the education is they get from the IA, right? A lot of people just think, it's like a driver's license test online for 15 minutes. You pay your 20 bucks and you've got a certification. We really started to talk about how tough it is to become certified and how important it is for the homeowners association to use a certified contractor. And I think we got a lot of traction as a result of this. And once again, we start to see the end user customer demanding the certification. That's good for the industry as a whole. So it was great that the IA took that step. And the other thing that we're doing a lot of in the month of July to promote the Smart Irrigation Month with the end users is lots of what we call lunch and learns, where we go into the community managers' offices, we talk about water awareness, we talk about July being Smart Irrigation Month and why it's so important, and why really every month should be Smart Irrigation Month. But that's what we thought was really important, was first of all was to get out, involve our end user customers so that they can spread the word as well and raise some awareness. So on the next slide, part of raising this awareness is through our Twitter landscape chats. Now, we've been doing these landscape chats for almost 4 years now, and it's hashtag landscape chat for those of you who haven't seen it. We, Valley Crest and Corona Tools started this quite a while ago. This past January, Corona Tools and Lawn and Landscape have taken it over now. But we started every Wednesday at 11 Pacific talking about, on Twitter, something that was about water management or sustainability. And we used the hashtag landscape chat. And we would have a guest, and we would have a subject, and it was open to anybody who had an account on Twitter to either sign in and search the hashtag landscape chat and watch the conversation, or they could come on and participate as well. We would ask questions of the guests. The guests would make answers, but anybody out there in the Twittersphere could ask questions as well. And we really got some great engagement from this. And in fact, we had some Twitter chats, some landscape chats that were in excess of 400,000 viewers in the hour. So what we really felt some of the success of this was just being steady on there every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. One of our biggest guests, one of our biggest sessions was a guest that we had from Nature's Conservancy in Texas. They've since done their own landscape chat type program. I know there's garden chats out there, there's tree chats. There's lots of them that already exist. So whether you're starting your own or participating in one, I really encourage you to do it. And where this comes back to July is Smart Irrigation Month. Always in July, we have dedicated one or two of the chats just to Smart Irrigation Month. It attracts manufacturers, it attracts distributors, contractors, as well as property management companies like Associa. This is a great way to get the word out. And like I said, the landscape chat that we all started a few years ago is Wednesdays from 11 to 12 Pacific. If you haven't been on there, you should really check it out because, once again, it's a great way to share information and really see some of the new things that are happening out there. Now, the IA, we did a thunderclap this year as part of Smart Irrigation Month. And our thunderclap was a way to spread the message to a lot of people at a specific time and date. And the power of that is when you start to get a subject that is trending in Twitter, lots of people are talking about it at one time, then you can gain extra attention to it. You can get on some trending feeds and raise the awareness. So this is our first time with the thunderclap, and we did have just a 100-member goal on that, but we attracted quite a few more than the 100. And in fact, when our thunderclap did go out, it did reach about 140,000 people in an instant, not to mention with the retweets that came off that and the people they saw. But in one instant, we reached about 140,000 people. And it'll be interesting now that we have our feet wet with that thunderclap, what we'll be doing, in the future as well. So our next slide has to do with Valley Crest Takes On. This was a blog we started a little over 3 years ago. And once again, under this idea of educate, 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 we really found that, it was easy 3.5 years ago to talk to somebody about water management and see that glazed over look in their eye in a very short period of time. And I just really felt that people didn't understand water well enough, and if we could write some informational articles, not selling articles, but educational, about current things that were happening in water, whether it was about the drought or about high-efficiency nozzles by all the manufacturers, something that would just raise the level of awareness, especially something that would be interesting to end-user customers. So, of course, in the month of July, we always have a couple posts just about Smart Irrigation Month. We talk about why July is Smart Irrigation Month, but we also factor in some of the things that the states are doing and people are doing to promote it. And I do know, this July we had over 15,000 people visit the blog and see these articles. So it's been, it's taken us 3 years to get that type of viewership, but we felt that it's been very worthwhile. A lot of people say, why is it important to have a blog? And I say it's really about education. And once again, as we talked about it, it raises the water awareness. And the other thing that I try to help people understand is it associates your company with a cause that is really important right now, and people can get behind that cause. And if you're writing about water management, you're more likely to be engaged in water management as a company, as customers, as you start to share the information. So I think this has been really key for us, as well as inspiring others. We are reaching a lot of people in a very economical fashion, and you could start your own blog for free. We did get some help at the beginning, setting up our page and working on the layout, but it's relatively an inexpensive way to reach a lot of people. And it allows you also to engage with your customers. You know, a website is very static. You can't really have a two-way conversation on a website. With a blog, you can start talking about something you're passionate about. You can get comments from your customers. You can post on LinkedIn user groups, for example, and see the conversations that occur there. We had an article a few months ago about desalinization of seawater, and I think in the first 20 days we saw over 120 comments on that. People had a real opinion, and people were sharing and developing those ideas, and I think it's great to provide a format to allow that. So, so these are some of the ways, once again, that we felt it was really important and has been successful in raising water awareness. We tried a YouTube channel, and a few years ago at BOMA, we interviewed some leaders of commercial real estate. And when I say leaders, these are people that represented Cassidy Turley or the California Endowment Fund. And in our interviews, and this was about 2 years ago now, in our interviews, we talked to them, and we really didn't try to lead them down the water awareness path. But one thing we did notice is that these leaders were talking about energy management, and they talked about how they felt that they'd spent what they could on energy management to where they'd get a good return on their investment, so that the savings wouldn't be that great with additional dollars spent on energy management. And they all said to a person that water management was the next place they were going to go. They felt they could make some gains there. So I felt that was really helpful and successful. I can't say that we have been able to promote Smart Irrigation Month that much through these channels, but I really see this as an opportunity for somebody in our industry to generate some tutorials, some ideas through YouTube or on a YouTube channel to help people understand water, and more importantly, maybe how to make some simple changes around their own properties to be better water managers. We've got online contact, of course, at our water management website. We really try to emphasize our educational approach, more of a static resource for people to look at. We promote Smart Irrigation Month on there as well, and have found that we get some pretty good feedback on that. As people are needing information, if you can develop your website as the place to go for information on whatever area of water management, your customers are going to be consistently hitting your website. And for people like Michael, who also have the ability for people to buy online, that's going to be a great way to build business for their company. And then finally, of course, as Michael mentioned too, we added the July Smart Irrigation Month to our email signatures. Jonathan Caceres is a great example here. He's one of our regional irrigation managers, somebody who is assigned to a region for Valley Crest to focus on and take responsibility of water management and water efficiency in an area. And we really promoted this to not just our regional irrigation advisors, but all our employees, and we feel like a lot have participated. And once again, if you just think about all those emails that go out, and it's amazing to me, I always hear how many people ask me about that. Originally, a lot of them get used to seeing it, in the signatures, but a lot asked, especially right at the beginning. So once again, it does a great job of promoting that awareness. And I just want to finish with, we really all have a responsibility here. And with the people on the line today, I know once again I am preaching to the choir, but I think it's so important to remember that in all our actions of what we do every day, what we write about, what we say, even if we don't have a blog, but we're commenting on a blog, we have the ability to motivate and inspire others to be better about water conservation, to be better about sustainability in their lives. And we have this opportunity to touch many people, and we know that us touching others and them passing the word on is the way to really make a difference. So thanks very much for your time today, and John Farner, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thanks. And Richard and Michael, I'm going to open up your lines now because we're moving into our question and answer period. Let's see here. Go ahead and do this. Perfect. So what I want to do now is a lot of you have went ahead and submitted some comments here or some questions regarding the presentations. And I'm going to go ahead and ask some of this now until the top of the hour, so 5 minutes worth of this. First of all, I want to thank both of our presenters today for some great presentations. It hit the mark really talking about ways to get the message out, take advantage of a lot of the efficient irrigation messages, Smart Irrigation Month messages that we put together. Everyone, I want to ask one question that I found very interesting, and I'll ask it to Michael first, and maybe you can give kind of an ag perspective, Michael, and then move it over to Richard for a turf landscape perspective. But one of our questions is, what are a few messages that resonate and inspire end users to demand water efficiency? And this could be either under the umbrella of Smart Irrigation Month or just some of the overall tactics that are used by you and your companies when talking to an end user to inspire them to move more towards a more efficient water use practice through irrigation. So, Michael, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I'll start with that. I think especially for agriculture, where you're in a revenue-generating business, from an end user, a lot of times in landscape is kind of a revenue saving. In agriculture, we're revenue generating, and so what I really trying to make this efficiency meet a need is through like energy consumption. Some of it would be through sustainability of the land, but I think probably the number one thing that I try to link efficient watering to is energy efficiency, because they can see that cost as something that the agriculture people have been dealing with for a very long time. Diesel costs being extremely expensive, all of the government mandates, which are good, and the EPA regulations on engines and things, diesel power getting extremely expensive. How people are used to the efficiencies and the advancements we've been making from an electrical standpoint with the different sources. Clean gas is a big thing. Natural gas in Louisiana in our area is a big thing. Clean natural gas. To run power plants, getting off of coal, improving the coal-fired power plants that are in eastern Texas, and some things like that. So for me, I think one way to try to get ag customer moving in the right direction is to try to relate it to something they're already used to and maybe can help them from a financial standpoint. I think energy is probably a big one for that.
Okay, Richard, how about from the turf side? Same question.
Yeah, thanks, John. So for us, the thing I think is really interesting today is if you go to college today, you can major in sustainability. Almost every major commercial company out there today has a director of sustainability. Many of the property management companies have their own sustainability officer. So I think it's not, I don't think we have to send a message to get the interest right away. I think the key is find the interested person already at the company, at the property management company, and then work with them to get the message out, because you already have an advocate that's going to help you spread that word. So I think that's really the key.
And so we have about 2 minutes left, and I'm going to try to get in at least one more question here. We focused a lot on Smart Irrigation Month, and Michael, what you're doing with a lot of the sales promotions you're doing surrounding the month that can be, quite frankly, copied and still at the industry, which is great. Really appreciate you sharing that information. And Richard, a lot of things that you've done using your message avenues, your avenues, whether it's online, social media, face-to-face contact, partnerships, etc. But think of it, year-round. Are there opportunities to take what we're doing in the month of July and moving it to almost, if not a 12-month basis, looking at the top months, top sales months, to look at opportunities to continue this kind of generate message generation or, quite frankly, revenue generation for your companies? And I'll start with you, Michael.
Yeah, I think so. From our standpoint, these are value-added products. A hard thing for us to do, as far as Irrigation Mart is, we're so busy with trying to get the immediate need met. So they call in and need whatever it is, a PVC fitting if it's a contractor, or a sprinkler head. It might not be a big sale, but we take that one conversation, we stop right there. One thing that we're trying to as a staff is adding these value added. I mean, the model is like when you go to McDonald's and you order number 2, and they say, do you want a shake with that, or do you want a coffee with that? It's exposing those customers to the offerings that add value to what they're trying to do. One of those things for us is nutrient analysis, and from a plant science horticultural standpoint, and then one of them is for soil moisture monitoring is a big deal for us. That in reality is a water saving and a water efficiency is not always what we think of primarily, but from our ag perspective, understanding when we've overwatered and understanding when we've underwatered and how to manage that properly and how all the plant soil science works together. That's a big deal for us. So throughout the year we try to expose those customers to value-added products, which in reality make us money and keep the wheels going.
All right, Richard, same question. 30 seconds or less. Go.
Yeah, and I'm going to supersize Michael's answer. And this is what I have to say. I had a friend who wrote a book recently, and it was published. And they said after it was published, what should I be doing on social media? And I said, you needed to take that step 2 years ago when you first started writing the book, and you have to have it ready to go. So social media, getting the word out, is something we do 12 months a year. And you have to do it to your best ability all the months, and then you can plug in programs like this to it, and that's how you keep the message going 12 months a year.
Great, great. Well, that's great information, guys. Really appreciate it. I wanted to just wrap up the webinar today with highlighting our next 2 webinars. One is going to be in October, and the other one in December. One focused on ag in the Colorado River Basin. Other talking about water budgeting, which is a great topic for landscape irrigation in December. Website's right there. Want to thank our speakers today. I want to thank all of you for joining us. That is my contact information. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for future webinars, please let me know. And again, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Richard. Great presentations. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us today. Have a great day.